Well, it's official. After months and even years of waiting at this point, Tesla has finally released their cheaper vehicle. It's a cheaper Model Y, but along with that, we got a surprise cheaper Model 3 as well. So let's get into it. For a while now, we've been expecting a stripped down version of the Model Y to be this cheaper vehicle that Tesla has talked about. Elon Musk even said it's a Model Y. But Tesla actually just released two brand new cars, the Model 3 Standard and the Model Y Standard. These are cheaper trims of their cars with some stripped back features, and this is basically in direct response to the ending of the EV tax credit and the fact that Tesla has needed to make cheaper vehicles for some time. Now, for the Model 3 Standard, it looks exactly the same outside, aside from the wheels, and the Model Y Standard does have some changes. In Tesla's launch video, they specifically note the low cost of ownership and that this has all of the features you love, and then they list a couple of those specific features. But let's start with the cheapest one, because today this is the cheapest car that Tesla ships, the Model 3 Standard. As I said, from the outside, it looks identical. Overall, it is largely the same car, and the Model 3 in particular, in this standard form, has a number of features that have stayed around. This price is $36,990, and that is the out-the-door price, because you're no longer subtracting $7,500 or anything like that. This comes with a 321-mile range, so that is reduced just a tad, and then it has a top speed of 125 miles per hour, along with a 5.8-second 0 to 60. One interesting thing is that this still does have the panoramic glass roof, which is not the case for the Model Y. This comes in three different color options: stealth gray, pearl white for $1,000, and black for $1,500, along with two different wheel options. There's the 18-inch Prismata wheels, and here's a look at those. This is what Tesla had teased just the other day. Up from there are the $1,500 Nova wheels. Then there's only one interior option, all black textile decor. For safety, they note 360-degree visibility, active safety, and passive safety. And then this car has the full FSD upgrade option, but that brings us to the features left off of this car. So some notable features this car still has: cellular connectivity, Wi-Fi connectivity, ultra-wideband, and Bluetooth. It can still supercharge at 225 kilowatt peak speeds, which is just a little bit reduced. And then they say it can charge 170 miles in 15 minutes. It has a 15.4-inch front touchscreen and then includes traffic-aware cruise control. There are LED front headlights, 8 exterior cameras, and that panoramic glass roof that I mentioned, so that did not come off of this car. Then there are still footwell and door pocket lights, first row power recline seats, a hands-free trunk, the same Frunk, and a black logo on the front. Many things are actually nicer than the Y, including more fabric, acoustic glass in the front windows, and more. But then there are a couple of upgrades that have arrived on this car while it's arriving across the board, like a front bumper camera. This is now arriving on the latest version of the Model 3 and basically is long overdue at this point. Tesla apparently did confirm, though, that no retrofit is coming for that, so it better not be essential for hardware for cars on FSD in the future here. Then the turn signal has been added back to this car. This is the first one we're seeing it on, but of course they're adding it across the board on all trims of the modern Model 3. So those are some things that stick around, but of course there are a number of notable omissions to bring down the cost of this car. Of course, you have less range. They removed one battery module to get down to that 321-mile range, and that's a 69 kilowatt-hour battery pack. It also has a lower 0 to 60, and then for the speakers, it's 7 speakers instead of 15, and there is no subwoofer. Another interesting one there is the removal of FM and AM radio. There's also no second row touchscreen, as expected. There are no ambient lights inside the light bar. The steering wheel is entirely manual adjust, and then of course it's that textile decor. It's not the vegan leather. For the second row, the air vents are manual adjust, and then the first row has heated seats with no ventilation. Then in the rear, there are no heated seats or ventilation of any kind. The second row seats are manual fold, and then they note manual adjust side view mirrors here. Then there are no rear seat pockets. Another change that you'll definitely feel is passive shock absorbers instead of frequency dependent shock absorbers, so it won't ride quite as smooth. But then this is the biggest one. There is no auto steer included in the standard Model 3. This has been a feature that has been included in Teslas for years. You knew that you would get basic autopilot or auto steer included with your car, and it could drive for you in most situations, auto steering in a well-marked lane. I would say this is actually the biggest omission on this car, which kind of seems like a crime. I don't know why they would leave this off of this car. Of course, they would leave it off to get you to upgrade to other trims, but it seems like another big dock for this car that makes the price maybe not worth all of that savings. I'll talk about that more in a second, but for now, this car says it will be available in December to January. But next comes the Model Y standard, which is a little more of a notable change. That's because from the outside, you can tell it's this car as opposed to a different trim. This comes in at $39,990, gets 321 miles of range, a 125 mile per hour top speed, and a 6.8 second 0 to 60. And then of course, this has those different exterior elements. There's no front light bar, it's split headlights instead, and then around back, there's no light bar, it's just a passive bar that connects the two taillights. This is similarly available in 3 colors, stealth gray, white for $1,000, and black for $1,500. And then there are 2 wheel options, the 18-inch aperture wheels, which are new, and probably ride smoother than any other Model Y wheels and get the best efficiency, and those get that 321 mile range. You can then upgrade to the 19-inch Nova wheels, which are the standard wheels on upgraded trims, for $1,500, and that brings the range down to 303 miles. There is one interior, the all-black textile, and then there are notable things that this still has. Cellular, Wi-Fi, ultra-wideband, and Bluetooth, a front touchscreen, LED headlights, auto high beams, traffic-aware cruise control, a wireless phone charger, and then cup holders integrated into the back of the center seat. This is a little bit of an interesting integration here and something we haven't seen them do before. Then the rear is mostly the same when it comes to space, so you'll still have that great versatile storage space that the Model Y has. There are USB-C ports, the first row has power recline, there are 8 cameras around the car, it has the hands-free trunk feature, and then it's worth noting overall this car gets 5% better efficiency than other trims, and that's largely thanks to the battery and a few other changes. It also has that reduced peak charging speed of 225 kilowatts and a smaller 69 kilowatt hour battery, which is about 10 to 12% smaller by removing that one module. They apparently purposely didn't want to go below 300 miles of range here. But there are a lot of notable emissions on this car as well. Of course, you have the lower range in 0 to 60. There are only 7 speakers instead of 15 with no subwoofer. There's no FM or AM radio. There's no second row touchscreen. And this one has a closed glass roof. This actually is a very interesting thing to see here because on the top, it's still glass, but inside it's fabric. So from what it looks like, the glass is still there and they just closed this off with extra fabric. This seems a little bit like a backwards intentional design choice. It doesn't actually save them money, most likely. It actually adds money to the cost of the car, but then it feels less premium. Of course, that's what they're going for here, that this feels like a cheaper trim. But if the function is right there, couldn't you just remove the fabric? I suppose they probably save some money on not having to treat that top glass with UV treatment and everything that they normally do to prevent people from getting sunburned and whatnot, because the fabric itself will take care of that. But it seems like they spent more money on this just to make it look cheaper. However, Tesla does say that it improves sound dampening and improves HVAC efficiency because the glass roof does contribute to a decent amount of heat in the car. This will be an interesting feature to see because it feels like very much a downgrade, but it's also one of those things I think a lot of people want in their car, especially people who live in Arizona or Las Vegas. They're just tired of the glass roof, or they've had to install a glass roof sunshade accessory and they may prefer this integration from Tesla. Now, of course, that LED ambient lighting is removed from this car, but one big change is the open center console. This is something that is not on the Model 3, but is coming on the Model Y standard, and it actually can be quite a nice feature there. It decreases the size of that center console and the amount of storage, but you do have the ability to store stuff right there, and it's kind of an open pass-through. It's kind of like what they did with the Cybertruck. Then there's a manual adjust steering wheel, textile interior, and no acoustic glass. It also seems when you look around the car, there's a lot of plastic that has replaced more fabric in the higher end trims of this car. And then on the sides of the seats, there are no controls located there. Instead, it's controlled on screen. Now, this is something that I feel like Tesla has probably wanted to do for a long time, and I'm surprised they haven't made on-screen controls for their higher-end trims. Maybe we'll see this make its way to the other trims of this car in time. On top of that, there are no seat back pockets, and then that all-fabric roof apparently contributes to efficiency gain. There are no powered side mirrors, and then there is no HEPA filter. One thing I noticed with Tesla's wording is that they say these are manual fold mirrors in the Model Y versus the Model 3 standard, they say that they're manual adjust. I think that may just be wording that they messed up because I believe you can still adjust these on screen. They just don't automatically fold in either trim. The Model Y standard has passive shock absorbers and then again, no basic autopilot. So you do not have the capability for this car to steer for you unless you pay $8,000 to get FSD. Of course, they want people to buy that FSD package, and FSD version 14 is starting its early release now, so it should be very, very good. But still, not including this as a default just seems like a big omission here, and something that kind of goes against Tesla's overall safety approach. When they want all of their cars to be as safe as possible, if they're arguing that autopilot saves lives. Now, back in the day, Tesla did do this approach with the Model 3 when they were first releasing the cheaper versions of that trim, and they actually launched a $35,000 version. But it has been so long since we've seen that this really comes as a surprise, and back then it was $3,000 to pay to upgrade to basic autopilot. If you think about only a $5,000 difference to get autopilot plus the huge list of upgrades you get by upgrading trims, this one seems particularly weird. Another thing that Sawyer Merritt particularly noticed in his Model Y standard was a much different front trunk. They removed a lot of the plastic around it, and you can actually see totally into the front trunk there and a lot of the different areas, including some dampening. He wasn't 100% sure if this is the final version of this, but it seems like they've removed a lot, and at least the front trunk material is much different and a little bit smaller. There's also no drain plug. For availability, Tesla says December to January for this car as well. Now, reviews are coming in because Tesla had many influencers that they invited out to Giga Texas to check this out and hold on to their videos until today, and I unfortunately wasn't invited. I'd love to be invited in the future. But I've watched a few of them, and one thing Sawyer Merritt particularly pointed out is that the top of the trunk lid is identical to the older Model Y. Interestingly, it doesn't actually split into as many parts as the other trims of the Model Y do. It also has that rounded shape like the old Model Y does, so it seems like they're kind of reusing older parts, which probably saved them some money, at least with the design process. So all of these downgrades come in, and it's all for just a $5,000 price decrease. Now this has led a lot of people to say that this is essentially a decoy model, and I don't entirely disagree. In some sense, this is a good value for what it offers. It still offers a 320-mile range and a lot of pretty good features for an electric car. But when you look at the upgrade that you get for $5,000 or $5,500 in the case of the Model 3, it just seems like it's a no-brainer to upgrade. Now, of course, if you can't afford $5,000 more, you're not going to be able to get that upgraded car. But for those that are on the fence or are only looking at a monthly payment and it's only a little bit more for the upgrade, it seems like this might exist so that Tesla can get people to upgrade. They can say the car starts at this low price, but really, you really want to upgrade. At the same time though, maybe they can launch a very cheap lease price with this car as well and bank on that specifically. We just saw Tesla launch leasing for solar because the tax credits went away there and they need to bank on that a little bit more to offer leasing as a different, cheaper option. Maybe that's what they're planning to do here, and they can offer a really compelling low lease price here, even though when you look to buy it, it's not as great of a value as it seems. Regardless, I am glad that this car now exists. It just went through so many iterations that in some sense, if you've been paying attention this whole time, it's a little bit disappointing. I mean, if you look back to 2020, 5 years ago, we were promised a $25,000 EV based off of 4680 battery cells, and that was going to be a new car, a smaller form factor, it was going to use their unboxed assembly process. And now we just got a lower quality version of their existing cars, and the cheapest one is $37,000. So $12,000 more expensive than what they talked about there, and it doesn't include autopilot. Of course, it gets a longer range than maybe we were expecting. So there are some positives here, and it's good that the lineup starts at these lower prices. So it will be an interesting launch to see from Tesla. The rear-wheel drive Cybertruck basically did not succeed at all because of all of the downgrades that car brought, which are very similar to this. But that was still $70,000. Here we're looking at $37,000 and $40,000. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on this car? Do you think this is great? Are you interested in buying it? Do you think it will do well or flop? Leave a comment below to let me know your thoughts. In the meantime, if you want to see all of the latest Tesla news updates aside from this, you can check out that video linked up here or in the description below. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.